Om. 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 Om Sahana Bhavatu, Sahano Bhunaktu, Sahaviryam Karavavahai, Tejasvina Vaditamastu, Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Om, may the divine being look over us lovingly as a mother and father. May the divine being support and nourish us as a mother and father. May we have the strength and skill to study together the art of spirituality. May no misunderstandings arise amongst us. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Om peace, peace, peace be unto thee, unto us, and to all your beloved children everywhere. Oh, dearly beloved, make it so. So here we are on Saturday, a little late, because quite honestly, dears, I just plain forgot. I got preoccupied with something else. But here we are, started. And so welcome and thank you for coming. And so we'll just, unless there's something that someone likes to bring up, comment, question, concern, we'll just ask Jeff to read ahead in Divine Grace, which is what we're reading and discussing on Saturdays at noon. Anything from anyone? All right, Jeff, please move on.
Okay, brother. I'm so glad that you could be with us, because we were all lined up ready for class, you know. And
Right.
And you missed my little speech I gave a few minutes ago. I'm expecting a delivery that I'll have to sign for, so I may have to excuse myself for a couple of minutes to do that, if it happens during
I'm expecting a phone call that I will have to take.
Okay. So we're tied. We're tied.
We're tied.
Okay,
Sisters.
We're in the middle of page 47, beginning with the second paragraph. On January 1st, 1886, about 8.5 months before Sri Ramakrishna's passing away, Sri Ramakrishna was lying seriously sick of cancer of the throat in a rented house at Kasipur in North Calcutta. Being a holiday, several householder devotees had gathered in the house in the afternoon. The weather being pleasant and the master being slightly better, he expressed a desire to come out of his room and have a walk in the garden. As he was moving about, the devotees came and bowed to him in reverence. When Girish Chandra Ghosh came forward to bow to him, Sri Ramakrishna addressed him in these words: "Girish, I find you saying to one and all so many things about me that I am an incarnation of God. What have you seen and understood about me that you proclaim such things about me?" Unmoved in the least by such an abrupt and strange question, Girish replied in a voice choked with emotion, What more can one say? What more can one like me say about him whose greatness the great sages Vyasa and Valmiki could not find words to express? Sri Ramakrishna was charmed at this fervent utterance of the devoted Girish and blessed him with the words, Tomar Chaitanya Hauk, may your spiritual consciousness be awakened. And hardly had he said those words that he entered into an ecstatic mood and blessed all those who came to salute him. In the words of Sri Ramakrishna, the great master, as they were thus bowing down to him, The sea of the Master's compassion transcended all bounds and brought about a wonderful phenomenon. We had almost daily seen the Master at Dakshineshwar losing himself in grace and compassion for certain devotees and blessing them by his extraordinary potent touch in the state of divine semi-consciousness. He began touching each of the devotees assembled on that day in that divine mood. The joy of the devotees, it is superfluous to say, knew no bounds at that act of the Master. Unable to utter a single word owing to that wonderful occurrence, some were only looking steadfastly at him, as if they were under the spell of a mantra. Some others called aloud to all within the house to come and be blessed by receiving the Master's grace. And still others collected flowers and worshipped him with them, uttering mantras. Soon the ecstasy of the Master came to an end, and the devotees too were again in the normal state of consciousness. And that concludes that rather lengthy quote. I thought I'd pause here.
Well, this is one of the remarkable episodes of the Master's life. And we celebrate it every January 1st at 3 p.m. It's called Kalpataru Day. Kalpataru is the wish-fulfilling tree. And so Sri Ramakrishna was fulfilling the spiritual wishes of his devotees. And it's auspicious for us to remember that Sri Ramakrishna's grace is not limited to there and then. He can do that at any moment for us, here and now. And so let us just be open. And it is in Swami Prabhupananda's fourth instruction for meditation. Let us live in expectation that we will have the grace of the Master's touch and carry us into whatever state of spiritual realization is our destiny. That's the message of this Kalpataru Day, this January 1st, 1886 episode. As far as it's understood, certainly that's the way it's been communicated to me by the Swamis and nuns over the years, that this is something for us to take very seriously. And as I said, live in that expectation. It could happen at any moment. Anything else from anyone?
Yes, brother, I've got a question.
Yes.
I've read about this special day before, and I've read about other instances in which Sri Ramakrishna laid his hands on disciples, rubbing their chest or head or stroking from the navel up to the throat chakra and things like that. And I can't feel but a little bit shortchanged that that I don't have that opportunity today. So is there?
Well, that's just
I heard what you just said, but how do we best prepare ourselves for some kind of?
Feel shortchanged. Just live an expectation of it will happen. As Sri Ramakrishna says, things happen at exactly the right time. So any feeling of shortchanged is just a way of distracting yourself and being impatient. And if you can't help it, well, you can't help it, then so be it. But please understand that what I said is very sincere and has been emphasized by monks and nuns ever since I first heard about this, which I don't know how many decades ago that was, probably some January 1st in the 1970s or 80s. So don't feel shortchanged. Don't feel as if it's not going to happen. The promise is it will happen. Just when, you never know.
Thank you, brother.
Anything else from anyone?
Yes, yes.
Yes, go ahead.
Some of us need to be struck by lightning, and others can just sit back and enjoy the lightning in the sky and feel ecstatic and joyous just with that. But some of us do need to be struck by lightning.
Very well said, dear. Yes.
Some of it is at some point you'll realize that you are in the presence of the master, that they're the feeling that that was in the 1860s or 80s or whatever doesn't matter. Like some of the swamis say, is literally like he's in the next room. At some point, hopefully, you come to realize that you're sitting at his feet right now. It's and I think it's just that matter of purification. Or maybe, I mean, it has to come through grace, but I don't think you can force yourself to get rid of that feeling that it's not here and now. But at some point you can realize that it is here and now. That, to me, it's even, I'm starting to really wonder, do we even actually die? Does the dream never ends? And, that the consciousness is continuous. And, I don't know, it's the belief that, I don't know, it's like you start seeing the dream as a dream, and you see the master is here and now. And I think it's also, this is speculative on my part, but I think it's also significant that he said he's coming back in 200 years. I think some of us will come back to return to be in the master's presence in duality.
There are some who pray for that daily. Yes. So you said many things. I'm not going to try to comment on them all. But the answer in general to what you said is yes. All of what you said is so. And the fact that it's here and now. Well, there is nothing but here and now. I mean, as Vivekananda said, no one can prove to him that there is anything but here and now. So let us just rejoice in the here and now, and either, as Cindy said, enjoy the lightning show, or live in the expectation that at any moment I can be struck by that lightning. All right, Jeff, please read on.
When questioned later, each devotee said that he had been blessed with a divine experience on the lines of his own chosen spiritual path. This truth of the self-revelation of God or divine grace becomes clear when we bear in mind two facts, namely the nature of God as pure chit or consciousness, infinite and non-dual, and its being the very self of ourself, and not any external object or any extra-cosmic deity. God is, as described by the Srimad Bhagavatam in that same elephant's hymn, the Atma Pradipa, the light of the soul. The English translation is salutations to him who is the light of the soul, the one witness of every event in the universe, the supreme self of all. Salutations to him who is beyond the grasp of speech and even of all mind and thought. And mukti, or liberation, is presented not as an otherwise I'm sorry, not as an otherworldly salvation, but an attainment here and now. Ihaiva, as the Upanishads, the Gita, the Sri Bhagavatam, and other scriptures emphasize again and again, because the kingdom of God is within man himself. In the words of the Shiva Gita, the English translation is, moksha or liberation has no particular dwelling house. It is neither like going to another village. Moksha means only the destruction of the knots of the heart, consisting of ignorance or spiritual blindness. And that concludes that quotation and the section.
Well, it couldn't be put more succinctly and auspiciously, could it? So the promise is there. The promise is there here and now. The Master's coming again in 200 years to reintroduce this great wave of spirituality and make sure that all of us who haven't been scooted along before get scooted along then.
And Jeff has a knot in his heart that he needs to work on.
Well, all of us have knots in the heart that we need to work on. Otherwise, we would be in that state of mukti. We would be in that state of liberation. So it's nothing to wonder at or be impatient about that we have knots of the heart. They come with the package. They come with the package. And everyone, if they are honest with themselves, says there's things that trip them up, doubts and fears and so on.
But at least you're acutely aware of it and pay attention to it now, whereas before we didn't.
Yes, exactly. And I like the use of the word acutely aware. Yes. We cannot, if we're being regular in our spiritual practices, we cannot ignore these things. And they become the subject of our spiritual practice. We don't undo them intellectually. The knots of the heart are undone by the heart as we sink into silence in our spiritual practices. The knots of the heart are not undone by something outside the heart. They're undone by the divine presence as it exists in the heart.
But the more you realize yourself as I am that, and you have to realize other people as the self and Atman also, it forces you to unravel those knots. It's like a paradox that can't exist. It's going to chip away at it.
Very well said. Yes, if we're regular in our spiritual practices, if we stay focused, as we say, there is an insistence that the knots of the heart be undone. Because that which is the truth of our being wants to fully express itself. Over and over the scriptures tell us. This is what's driving you forward on your spiritual quest. The desire for the divine being to fully express itself without limitation. Okay, Jeff, please read on.
Okay, we're starting section 19, which is called Some World's Mystics on Divine Grace. So it's the middle of page 49. The idea of self-revelation of God is a recurring theme in the writings of several mystics of the East and the West. Says John Roysbrook, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, God in the depths of us receives God who comes to us. It is God contemplating God. Let me read that again since I messed it up. God in the depths of us receives God who comes to us. It is God contemplating God. Jalaluddin Rumi conveys in a song the message which God sent to a devotee who began to doubt his existence because he did not receive a clear answer to his prayers. Thy call, O God, is my call. I am here. Thy pain and praying, message mine so clear. And all thy strives to reach the ear of mine, that I am drawing thee, it is a sign. Thy love woe is my grace. Why doesn't thou cry? Thy call, O God, means 100, here am I. And that concludes that quote, and shall I pause there?
Well, would you read it again, please?
Certainly.
Rumi is always worth reading twice. Very, very, very intricate and profound.
Thy call, O God, is my call, I am here. Thy pain and praying, message mine so clear. And all thy strives to reach the ear of mine, that I am drawing thee, it is a sign. Thy love woe is my grace. Why doesn't thou cry? Thy call, O God, means 100, here am I.
Very nice. This is Rumi, who is very well acknowledged as a realized soul, a true saint, speaking from the depths of his own experience and echoing what the Swami told us before. Anything else from anyone? All right, please go on.
Okay, we have a couple of short quotes by different sources, so shall I pause after each one?
No, just go ahead. We'll see what happens.
Okay. Says Meister Eckhart, suppose a man is hiding and he stirs, he shows his whereabouts thereby, and God does the same. No one could ever have found God. He gives himself away.
Mm-hmm.
Sings a Sufi mystic, Mantikut Tair, if I'm saying that correctly. All you have been and seen and done and thought, not you, but I have seen and been and wrought. Pilgrim, pilgrimage, and road was but myself at my own door. Come, you lost atoms, to your center draw. Rays that have wandered into darkness wide, return, and back into your sun subside. Emphasizing the need to combine the role of Ishvara Kripa with Purushakara, Purushakara. The Sufi Sheikh Sadi of Iran sang, very right is thy faith and pride in his grace, and true it is that it works like rain shower on a tilled field. But to what avail all shower if ye have not sown the field? And sings Baba Farid, many of whose songs have been included in the Sri Guru Granth Sahib of the Sikhs. His grace may fall on us at any time. There is no definite rule regulating it. Some do not get it even after performing great austerities and night-long vigils, while it is forced on those who lie asleep. The charming Sufi poet-saint of India, Sarmad, the friend of Dara Shikoh, whom Dara's brother, Emperor Aurangzeb, got executed for emphasizing the universal vision of tariqa, or spiritual path and experience of the mystical Islam, over the rigid creed-bound Sharia do's and don'ts of dogmatic Islam, sang of God giving himself to man. That was a long sentence. So here is the rather lengthy quote. If I were pure, never shall I taste the sweets of the forgiveness of sins. If I were holy, I could never behold the tears. O love, O mercy, O O divine humility, O forgiveness, O pity and compassion. If I were pure, I should never have known thee. Would thou love one who never died for thee, or even die for one who had not died for thee? And if God dieth not for man, and giveth not himself eternally for man, man could not exist. For man is love, as God is love. Every kindness to another is a little death. In the divine image, none can exist but by brotherhood. I've got to pause there and say, wow, and I feel like I need to read that one again.
Please read that again. And notice the promise again of it's here and now, not sometime later.
But God taking a little death to manifest as us.
Right?
That's very powerful stuff. So, to backtrack through all this, this is a quote from the Sufi poet saint of India, Sarmad. If I were pure, never shall I taste the sweets of the forgiveness of sins. If I were holy, I could never behold the tears. O love, O mercy, O divine humility, O forgiveness, O pity and compassion. If I were pure, I should never have known thee.
Or top car.
Would thou love one who never died for thee, or even die for one who had not died for thee?
A short answer, or shall I call you back?
You can call me back, but the short answer is I'm just now checking my messages, so I haven't done anything. So if you still want to go, we're still on.
Okay, very good. That's the answer I need. Thank you, Tom.
And did Brian ever call you?
No, and I'm in
Okay.
class. So thanks for calling.
Okay, bye.
Bye-bye. Well, there was the phone call I said I'd have to take.
Okay.
And that I wanted.
I'm still waiting for the delivery that I'll have to take. So I'm going to restart at the top of this quotation. If I were pure, never shall I taste the sweets of the forgiveness of sins. If I were holy, I could never behold the tears. O love, O mercy, O divine humility, O forgiveness, O pity and compassion. If I were pure, I should never have known thee. Would thou love one who never died for thee, or even die for one who had not died for thee? And if God dieth not for man, and giveth not himself eternally to man, man could not exist. For man is love, as God is love. Every kindness to another is a little death. In the divine image, none can exist but by brotherhood.
Which, as we look into the teachings of all the great teachers, Christ and others, we find over and over this repetition of the word brotherhood, which we can also add to sisterhood. They spoke patriarchally, but we can be more accurate and say sisterhood and brotherhood. So The promises from the saints, we can find them utterly reassuring because they all say, this isn't just for me. God is there dying and being born again for you, as you, over and over and over. So be it. And by the way, the word, Jeff, is Purusha Kara. I get it wrong too. Purusha Kara, the self-effort. Effort, Kara, self, Purusha, effort of the self. Purusha Kara.
So if I pronounce it like the two words were separate, I'd be okay, right? Parusha Kara. Okay.
To me, that poem just reiterates or it screams, what Sri Ramakrishna said. You've come to the mango garden, so eat the mangoes. This is the sweet fruit of duality that he's talking about.
Yes, yes. And I was looking for a word, not finding it. But I like your use of the word screams. It just screams it. He's just as saying it at the top of his voice, isn't he? Just listen to me, he's saying. Just listen to me. I know what I'm talking about.
It really touches me, the concept of God dying in order to manifest as us. And then when we do a little kindness to another, it's a little death.
Yes.
That's mind-blowing to me.
In Spanish, momentito, a little bit. Those kindnesses are.
But who's dying into who?
Well, of course, you can resolve it that way. Bhagavan does. You can resolve it that way. But that's the non-dual way of looking at it. But as Jeff was pointing out, this is the dual way of looking.
But I'm just saying, there's that ecstasy of dying into the Lord or into God, is unspeakable. And, but it also is both ways because, in it, you don't know yourself from God. So it's like, say, it's kind of who's dying into who.
Exactly. Well, the non-dual and the dual are both equally true. There's nothing wrong with bhakti, but there's certainly nothing wrong with what you just said either. Who's dying into whom? It is priceless.
And this brings me the picture of Christ walking with a cross on his shoulder, right? Going for crucifixion for who? Like God dying for the humanity.
Yes, precisely. Precisely. The Stations of the Cross are one of the great meditations of the Christian tradition. And of course, you just mentioned one of the most powerful of those Stations of the Cross. Christ actually walking to Calvary, carrying his own cross. Well said. Well done.
These verses have too deep a meaning. I mean, it almost seems like you have to read them in their original language. And even then, you may not get all the depth. But I was going back through all these little verses, and the very first one, which is the shortest, probably seems to be the theme that's going through all of them, which means God is in the depth of us, and he comes out to receive us. It's like God contemplating God. So maybe the central theme of all of these verses is God contemplating God.
Yes. Well said.
And this reminds me of the quotation from the Upanishads that we use before meals. Brahman is the ritual, Brahman is the offering, Brahman is one who offers to the fire that is Brahman.
Exactly.
It's all God. All of this is all God.
And the rest of that verse says, one who sees Brahman in every action attains to Brahman. So it is that transformation of our vision from ritual and offering and all of that to seeing Brahman in all of that, rather than seeing it as Brahman is the offering, Brahman is the ritual. Seeing Brahman, actually seeing all of that as Brahman, one attains to Brahman. And of course, that is what is devoutly to be wished. Well said. It does remind us. Anything else from you?
The last one that we read, which brings out the history of the conflict between Tariqa and Sharia, which is one is dogmatic, the other one is steeped in mysticism. I mean, it seems like there seems to be a pull for mysticism in all of this, and dogma only takes you to a certain level. Then you almost need to bridge into mysticism to get to the remaining part of the grace that you're looking for.
Yeah, those who remain dogmatic make no further progress. They become, as Swami Ranganathananda said, they become fanatics, which is a kind of mental disease. And they begin to try to enforce their dogmatism on others. And of course, that is painful for everyone, those on whom it is enforced. And ironically, it's even painful for those who are doing the enforcing.
You know, it reminds me of the thing where he said that, you can take the almanac and it could predict, 3 feet of rain, but you can squeeze it all day long. You're never going to get any water out of it. And Rumi kind of said the same thing. I just can't remember the exact quote.
Yeah, yeah, it's absolutely true. It's a very ancient folk saying, yes. The predictions may be there, but you're not going to get anything by squeezing the prediction.
Just an observation on day-to-day entertainment. So Bollywood has lots of movies and they have lots of songs, but there's a recent trend where they try to bring some elements of Sufism, which is right here. And when you bring Sufism and some of the tunes, then you may not understand what the Sufism or the tunes are doing, but supposedly it has a charming character and the songs become great hits, almost go viral. So just wanted to bring that out.
Well, I'm not surprised they become great hits because they call to something in us that you don't expect to hear called to from that realm, that world of Bollywood. So I'm sure they do become great hits. How charming that they do. That's great.
Bhaskar, do you think that is an indicator that people in India are becoming interested in mysticism, especially if it's something that's a little bit outside their normal traditions?
Well, India was always interested in mysticism, but the 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 thing here is that even if you don't understand Sufism, even if you don't understand the the Urdu, which is the language in which Sufis actually speak, so you may never get it. But the point I was trying to bring is that even if these Bollywood, which are super popular entertainment, when they go pull a Sufi element into their music, something hidden, some hidden charm pulls everybody. And no matter how, day to day to the earth that person may be, persona may be, they still get pulled through Sufism. And Sufism just one part. There are other things from Indian classical music and etc. that are often brought in that also pulls you in.
That's interesting. Thank you. Well, shall
Okay.
I continue? Sarmad faced execution, like Sufi Mansur of earlier centuries, with this song, breathing the strength of divine grace and love. So here is the song. Ah, how merciful is he that he ordered my head to be severed from my body. From a serious headache I was suffering. He cut the matter short. The incident of Mansur was forgotten through passage of time. By ordering my crucifixion, once more he renewed the tale of great love. The touch of divine grace and the intimacy of man with God shine glowingly in the life of Brother Lawrence, the humble Christian devotee of the 17th century, and in his conversations and letters, he quotes a rather lengthy quote, so here we go. I engaged in a religious life only for the love of God, and I have endeavored to act only for Him. Whatever becomes of me, whether I be lost or saved, I will always continue to act purely for the love of God. That when an occasion of practicing some virtue offered, he addressed himself to God, saying, Lord, I cannot do this unless thou enablest me. And that then he received strength more than sufficient. That when he had failed in his duty, he only confessed his fault, saying to God, I shall never do otherwise, if you leave me to myself. It is you who must hinder my falling and mend what is amiss. That after this he had himself no further uneasiness about it. That our sanctification did not depend upon changing our works, but in doing that for God's sake, which we commonly do for our own. That it was a great delusion to think that the time of prayer ought to differ from other times, that we are as strictly obliged to adhere to God by action in the time of action as by prayer in the season of prayer. That his prayer was nothing else but a sense of the presence of God, his soul being at that time insensible to everything but divine love. And that when the appointed times of prayer were past, he found no difference because he still continued with God, praising and blessing him with all his might, so that he passed his life in continual joy. His very countenance was edifying, such a sweet and calm devotion appearing in it as could not but affect the beholders. And it was observed that in the greatest hurry of business in the kitchen, he still preserved his recollection and heavenly mindedness. The time of business, said he, does not with me differ from the time of prayer. And in the noise and clatter of the kitchen, while several persons are at the same time calling for different things, I possess God in as great tranquility as if I were upon my knees at the Blessed Sacrament. And that concludes that quotation.
Now, just that last line, those last line, there's no difference for him between the worldly moments, so to speak, of all the clatter banging and calling out in the kitchen and being on his knees at the altar, at the sacrament. This is the state to be attained by us. This is what we've been being told. Don't see any difference between daily life and spiritual. And Brother Lawrence makes it so abundantly clear, as do other saints. You can find other quotes exactly to the same point in that book, Love Poems from God. Anything else from anyone?
To me, in the beginning, where he's saying that our sanctification did not depend on changing our works, but in doing that for God's sake, which we commonly do for our own. For me, it's been a real struggle to let go of being the doer. And I kind of hear him in a way saying, like, you surrender the doer to grace. And for me, it's like, I had to tell Mother, I don't know how to stop being the doer. And please, let that grace come.
And it will. Your sincere prayer cannot go unanswered. This is Mother's promise. When you are in distress, remember you have a mother, and she will come when I am called on by name, she says, I cannot resist. So all those promises she makes, these are her words. I'm quoting. So just keep calling on Mother and asking for her transformation, and it will come. Thanks for bringing that up.
Yeah, before I always struggled thinking that I'm going to stop being the doer by self-will, and I don't think that's how it works.
No, sir, it doesn't.
Well, I think it is cultivating the practice, though. I have a little story to relate. A couple of months ago, I did a favor for a friend of mine by tacking in some screening that had come loose from her front porch. So I was doing work that I don't usually do, like cutting strips of wood and using a staple gun and hammer and all that kind of stuff. And there were times when I was just thinking to myself, God is not the doer. I mean, God is the doer. And then there were other times when I wasn't thinking that thought, but the work took on a flow to where it didn't feel like I was doing it. It just had a flow of, okay, now I need to cut this strip of wood. Okay, now I need to do this. Now I need to do that. And it just happened without me thinking about it much. And considering the fact that this is work I don't usually do, I just was just enjoying the flow of it and kind of getting out of the way and letting the work happen. So I had a little glimmer of God as the doer throughout that day.
Beautiful story, well told. Exactly. Many, many, many will tell you that. My grandfather was a Christian Scientist, very devout and practicing Christian scientist. And he built houses. And the way he talked about going about building houses was very parallel to what you just did. And he revered, in those days, there were not power tools. This was the 1940s and 50s, he was building these houses. There were no power tools. And he revered his tool chest as the tools of God, that God provided these tools and his knowledge of how to use them. And you could saw a 90-degree cut in a board He could hammer a nail with one or two blows. It was something to see him work. And it was exactly in that spirit that you described, Jeff. Just perfect. Just perfect.
Thank you, brother. I love the concept of revering the toolbox. And those tools were hard to use, but that's what people knew at that point in time. And he loved the fact that he was able to accomplish work for God by using those tools.
That's how every house he built, he was building for the divine person. Because that's all that you did as a Christian Scientist. You simply served the divine person. So yes, and he did revere those tools. I can remember years after he passed away, that tool chest in his garage, and people would borrow a tool from it. They made sure they returned it. And a hammer that he used to use. I don't know, there was something special about the hammer. Just that his hand was on it. That's a personal story. Anything else from anyone?
So maybe the tools have changed over the ages, but we still have used tools in the modern days. They may be digital in many ways, but we probably don't have the same set of reverence for them. And maybe the lesson is that we should build a reverence for a different set of tools for a different lifestyle that we're living today.
Yeah, I don't know. You know, I never practiced his line of work, so I don't know what it would be like to move from a handsaw to a chainsaw or handheld saw, or from a hammer to a nail gun. But it does seem like it would be more difficult to hold them in reverence. But then, like I say, I've never done either kinds of work other than just trivially as a homeowner. And then not with power tools, but with hand tools. Other than a power drill, I had a power.
I also wanted to observe that Swami Ranganathananda, in the way he has curated these verses and stories, in the kind of acumen he must be having in trying to build it as he's building, and he still hasn't finished, so this section hasn't finished, but it's the same theme, but he's just getting different visuals, and actually to me it's different visuals, and it's all trying to build some stories. So hopefully at some point in time we may be able to reflect back on those visuals, and it'll probably give us the sense of strength.
I'll stop talking and let Jeff read then.
Well, I'd like to comment on the fact that he is finding unity among these quotations that are from different sources, pulling them in from all different traditions, and they're all agreeing, and I think that's very significant. Brother, it's about 1:06, and we started a little bit late, so...
Well, then let's just call it and we'll pick it up there next week.
Okay.
Being mindful of the time. As you can see, I am not. So, all right. Thank you, Jeff, and thank you all of you for being here, for being with us, for making this a congregational effort, studying the art of spirituality together. So we'll finish with our normal prayer. Jai Shri Guru Maharaj Ji Ki Jai Shri Durga, Jai Shri Durga, Jai Shri. May we be safe. May we be healthy. May we be cheerful. May we have peace of mind. And may the Mother, Father, Divine Being that introduces itself as part of our opening prayer, may we be aware that that Divine Being holds us lovingly and secure in its embrace, its comforting embrace. Jai Shri Guru Maharaj Ji Ki Jai. Durga, Durga, Durga. May we be safe. May we be healthy. May we be of bright spirits. May we be well and in bright spirits. So until tomorrow morning, when, of course, we will gather with Swami Prabhrajika, Rajaprana at the center in Tucker. She will, of course, also speak this evening, and that will be Zoomed for those of you who can't go. And that phone call that Tom Carr interrupted us with was letting me know that my ride over there is secure. So for those of you who will be there this evening, I'll love to see you. Anything further from anyone? Anything at all? Until next time.